It looks like we are up. So what a great day it is today. Thank you, Dorothy, for that introduction. So look, as we're all here trying to differentiate, both in-store and online, or frankly, differentiate across all channels, the big question, how can we leverage customer data to craft these seamless winning experiences for our customers? We look forward to the next few minutes where we have the opportunity to dive into this topic and share some actionable insights and items to drive increased performance specific to our CX efforts, specifically having some sort of economic impact. So a quick introduction. My name is David Van Brocklin, Vice President, Customer Success for InMoment. I am kicking off my 13th year here at InMoment, where I've had the opportunity to work with our customers the entire time. We are the global leader on integrated CX, or integrated customer experience, basically taking all the signals our clients receive from their customers and making sense of what to do to proactively improve and win the experience. So with that, I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Hindawi. He's a key CX retail influencer. And Radi, how about a quick intro?
Absolutely. Hey, everyone. Radi Hindawi. I've been with InMoment for 8 years, and I'm in charge of what we call our strategic insights team. So we partner with brands across different industries, of course, including retail, to go beyond metrics, really think about elements of acquisition, retention, churn. How do we take that next step in this experience revolution that they're going through? So very excited to be partnering with David today on really, again, going beyond those data points and looking into what's next in this incredible world that we're in.
Okay, Roddy, don't tell him too much just yet. Let's dive into this. But look, based on the CX expertise that we have in the retail industry, specifically prioritizing customer outcomes, we have a lot of experience and exposure to many of the high-risk challenges, some unique, some that are currently trending at scale, right? So I think on this next slide, you'll see we've listed out a few. And first off, the question, what does loyalty even mean anymore, right? Loyalty looks even more different now than it did earlier this year. We know the importance of loyal customers, whether you're a top-performing retailer or a boutique online, e-commerce shop that's making a splash in the market. This challenge comes from the fact that our customers are everywhere, all the time. The rise and death of different channels, new services being offered across all types of channels. As an example, innovative payment services being offered online. They're now being requested in store. So the challenge is that experiences are all being blended from brand to brand, and you do not want to be left out, right? Changing customer needs are the real disruptors right now. And then look, this last one, digital transformation, it was so last year, right? Well, it was last year, it continues to be this year, and it'll continue to be into the next year. So, easier said than done, right? These challenges, whether the ones I've talked about or other challenges that are at the top of your list, things like the rise of private label, maybe a shift in your direct-to-consumer strategy. It could be the transformation of regional preferences and demographics that are changing. Whatever it is, you need to stand out and continue to evolve by leveraging the insights and intelligence that can come from customer data. So, like I said, easier said than done. Most brands, when we first partner with them, they have customer data flows that are complex and siloed. There's specific line of business tools across disconnected platforms. There might be overlapping, features and capabilities that tell different stories. These types of challenges create friction points that slow us down. So the big question, what can we do? And we're here to help answer that question. Radi, I know you've prepared a couple items to share that will help us kind of overcome some of these current retail challenges.
We have. So let's go ahead and jump right into them. So as we've really seen this transformation of the industry, I think one of the things that we're going to see more and more, especially in the coming years, is this move to step one, or I would say the first thing to think about is this move to this idea of integrated experience. I'm a market researcher. My background is research. I love surveys. The surveys get me nice and nerdly excited in the morning. I love to go into them. But the fact is, this new world that we live in is not all around surveys. Bringing data from absolutely everywhere, whether we're talking about social signals, whether we're talking about reviews, whether we're talking about internal data or new primary signals you've never worked with before, The fact is, all these experiences your customers are going through, your employees are going through, your non-customers are going through, are now part of one journey. So again, we're going to talk a little bit about how do you now start to change the conversation from metric to ROI? How do you really start to bring in that data to go beyond just saying, hey, here's what we need to do to increase a metric like Net Promoter or OSAT, but get to that level of retention, market share, acquisition, and so on and so forth. The second piece we're going to be touching on today is how do you increase that experience awareness across your organization? Again, I'm a researcher. We get very excited about data, but how do we get the entire organization, or how do you get the entire organization to be part of that conversation? Here are the actions we need to take to change that basically drive that we're doing. Here's what we need to do in an operational standpoint, marketing standpoint, executive standpoint, and so on and so forth. We go into that third piece, which is really part of those other two, and that's around what we like to call a culture of commitment. The fact is, in the world that we live in, entire organizations, brands that David and I work with on a day-to-day basis, it's no longer just one team working with us to rethink the entire strategy. It's the entire organization. It could be technology teams, it could be IT teams, operations and executive teams, but having that North Star of how do we get the entire organization to be part of this culture of commitment to our customers, our prospect customers, our emerging customers, and so on. That is really where the retail industry is moving towards when you think about those particular experience strategies. So how about we jump into that? I want to touch on that first piece, which is the integrated experience. Now, this is a very different thing that you may have seen in the past, but the fact is, again, there's so much data out there today, and being able to strategize the data is really key. But the fact is, you can't just throw everything. You probably shouldn't, I should say, throw all your data, internal and social and surveys into this kind of box and hope that you see some type of response or linkage. It really is a step-by-step crawl, walk, run process. And so what you're seeing on our screen here is really what we recommend and push our partners and brands to think about, and something that David and I are going to continuously push you today to think about as you think about that experience and culture of commitment piece. So let's go through this. When you think about your experience program and strategy today, whatever it is, it could be customer experience, employee experience, market experience, any letters in the alphabet, put an X, it's some type of experience out there. But the most important element is it really comes down to where are we today? What are we currently measuring? That's the first piece of that journey. And I would say, looking at the list here today, and I'm sure we're going to have questions about this, everyone here probably is measuring something, right? There's a survey out there, some type of metric across the different channels, across your different customers and personas and targets. So that first part of what this integrated experience is all about is, again, making sure you're measuring the right experiences. The second piece is manage. Now, the fact is, 15, 20, 25 years ago, we would have these surveys and launch samples out and rethink the entire strategies in terms of how to do things. But today, it is absolute table stakes to be able to scale and manage that entire approach. Your surveys are in real time. They're always listening. You're listening to your customers, employees, and so on in a single journey. And so manage is all about scaling what you have today to focus on that third piece, which is democratize. This is something we spend a lot of time with our partners on. How do you start to basically take all that information, not just from your surveys anymore, but from all these other signals like social and internal and so on, and basically share it across your organizations, share it across all those different teams, whether they're executives, marketing, and so on. And that fourth piece comes into play around how do you now take it and engage your stakeholders? Again, metrics are important, but how do you now change the conversation? If we focus on these three actions, here's the type of return we can see. We're going to see higher retention. We're going to see higher acquisition of these emerging customers. Actually, David and I are on a lot of calls with a lot of our clients today, especially around this idea of emerging top talent. How do you look for the next employee that's really going to help you drive a customer growth and awareness and so on? So again, engaging stakeholders using signals from everywhere with one experience is really key, because it gets you to that fifth piece that you see here. It gets you to ROI. It gets you to now change the conversation. And the sixth piece, of course, is measure back to success. So just to quickly summarize, I know that was quite a bit, But the idea here is having a strategy that brings in data from everywhere, that combines all the X's, the CX, the EX, the MX, the David Van Brocklin experience, DVBX. I like that one, David. But again, bringing them all together in one, your data signals, and having that strategy to get to ROI is absolutely key. So something we want you all to think about, especially for your organization today, and maybe take a second after this meeting or after you kind of go through this to kind of think about, where do I actually fall? Where does our organization fall in this respective strategy? But let's go to that second piece now. Great, there's a strategy and there's a goal to get to that level of ROI. How do we integrate the right signals at the right time? And that is where we basically get into integrating data or signals from absolutely everywhere. Again, we're not here to say, and David and I totally agree on this, we're not here to say surveys are basically going to disappear. They're going to basically not be important anymore. Surveys are not going to change. They're going to continue to be part of your experience strategy. But the role of your surveys are absolutely going to change. And here's what I mean by that. If you think about what's available to you today, let's start with indirect data. There is just so much information out there. Whether you're thinking about, Instagram and Facebook and so on and so forth, when you're thinking about those social signals, whether you're thinking about review signals, and now we're getting to Glassdoor and Indeed and Google reviews and so on and so forth. When you think about digital, which David touched on, you're going into Apple stores and so on. Bringing that data in first allows you to solve quite a few questions that are probably out there across your organization today, and it is all readily available. So spending time to see what's out there allows you to move very quickly in a lot of cases there. There might be other signals. We have a lot of our clients challenge us and say, hey, this Gen Z or Gen Z population, I'm Canadian, so I have my identity crisis between Z and Z. But the fact being said here is, they're now starting to pressure us to say, can we get Discord data? Very tricky to do, as David knows. But again, how do we look at these emerging customers, those emerging Gen Zs is going to be really key here. So again, starting with that first line at the top, signals that are available today. Internal data, there's just so much data internally that you may have. As you bring in those social signals and link them together, and you're able to now see new journeys or new obstacles that you can tackle and so on and so forth. And then the surveys come in. The fact is, your surveys now can be more targeted. Yes, we're still going to have, I'm going to say traditional, even though I'm a market research and it gives me a little bit of anxiety, but there's still that traditional long form research that we all love to do. But the fact is, you can now target your surveys around gaps. You're bringing new primary data that's basically not been ever available before. You're changing the conversation to things like, if we can fix these 3 areas here, we can see higher spend in our locations. We can see higher adoptions on our mobile apps. One of our clients just recently came back and said, we're seeing higher retention on a monthly basis and higher spend in return. So they're seeing that growth and profitability across the organization as well. So again, part of this integrated experience and all these signals from everywhere is around taking it to the next step of, what are we trying to solve and how can you solve it, and why that's going to help you get to that next piece of the outcomes. Bring all the data in together, link it together, and build that entire journey from scratch. What this allows you then to do is to get into the piece that I'm going to pass to David here in a second, which is overall governance. But David, I've been going on and on. As you know, I love to talk about this. It gets me super nerdy and passionate, but I'm sure I've missed 1 or 2 things, or I'm sure you want to jump in and add a few commentaries here based on your experience with all our awesome clients that we work with.
Well, thank you, Radi, and well done. It's almost like hopefully the audience can tell how passionate you are about this. And I think you've only had like 1 coffee today, so that was pretty impressive. But no, look, you just shared some best practices around, democratizing your data, integrating data from anywhere and everywhere. And you talked about kind of this maturity plan, if you will, specific to, achieving that North Star of integrated experiences. So I want to spend some time on kind of a key lever to help the acceleration of this maturity plan, to maximize the intelligence from your customer data, specific to this idea of having a CX governance strategy. So if you want to move on to the next slide. Yep, perfect. So, across the hundreds of brands and partnerships here at InMoment, we've learned over the years, and frankly, now we're at this point where we're able to guide our clients through this concept of having a defined CX governance strategy. Now, this strategy can look different and be called something different based on, your own structure, organization, or size of company. The important part is that you do not just say, hey, look, we are customer centric. You know, we use the word customer in our mission statement. We're good. Our customer has a seat at the table. No need to focus on CX governance. So I guess I want to call that out, because if you feel like you're not leveraging customer insights and taking advantage of all these, customer data sets that are out there and these different signals, both direct and indirect, a good CX governance strategy most likely is not in place. So what does that mean? Well, it's time to evolve. And this is why. This will help with, enterprise level orchestration. This will improve cross-functional collaboration, creating, more value, resulting in the single view of the customer, allowing for more proactive CX efforts with efficiencies. So this governance council, it should fit in the rhythm of your company by first having executive sponsorship, chaired by either, the CEO or a direct report. Many companies now lead with a chief customer officer. This council manages the activities of kind of the tactical working teams or work streams that are striving, ultimately to improve the customer experience, as well as communicates expectations throughout the company, particularly to the customer-facing associates, right? The frontline folks that we value so much. Truly best-in-class CX companies will often have what we call, CX champions, ambassadors, or key influencers scattered throughout the company that are promoting CX and spearheading efforts within, each function, ultimately breaking down those silos with the customer being at the center, right? So I want to talk a little bit about a story from one of our global leading footwear retailers. And it's been neat to be part of this process, partnering with this brand. They have been able to achieve this North Star of having impactful CX governance. It started a few years ago with having an individual, a CX champion, as part of an operations team. And this individual truly had a passion for himself and his team being customer centric. This CX champion, he started, socializing the, did you knows, the did you know that, ... These types of nuggets that come from customer data. So for example, did you know, like, if our associates offer additional merchandise at the point of purchase, there is a 17% average transaction size uplift. Or, something like, did you know that when our associates are successful, helping the customer try on the shoe, that they are 3 times more likely to make a purchase? And then we were measuring these different behaviors, these different attributes, and then we're able to see progress on, our associates, do they need more training on offering additional merchandise at the time of purchase, so on and so forth. So this specific CX champion kind of leveraged these nuggets to really kind of create this coalition. This type of intelligence and the ability to socialize these insights, created these CX champions within this organization more than this one individual. So basically a small governance team was formed. This small governance team was able to get the attention of the executives, specifically with the ability to tell a story around the importance of associate behavior and attributes that drive sales, right? The company then invested in a supported CX model, kind of the true hub and spoke model, and they had success. This CX Center of Excellence team then started to take on more responsibility, identifying, customer friction points, and then supporting specific functions, helping those functions remove and knock down those friction points, right? So as this CX governance process and this CX Center of Excellence team continued to evolve, the company then transformed to more of an integrated CX model, where representation from different lines of business across the organization, they had more transparency into enterprise initiatives through this CX Center of Excellence function. And then what happened, right? So increased data integration followed, which led to more comprehensive analytics. So now instead of just telling stories about the customer experience, they were able to tell stories about how the employee experience impacts the customer experience, the social experience, all these different types of signals that are out there. This integration of all the data sets caused for more robust analytics, right? This global footwear retailer, they just recently hired their first chief customer officer. So pretty awesome, right? Like this idea of CX governance, it can be done. It is a process, but it can be accomplished. So look, I know our time is about up here, but we want to finish with some specific next steps that we feel like based on our expertise, based on the industry and all these partnerships that we're a part of, what can you all go and do to really start to strive and make progress towards this idea of integrated CX, right? So first, integrated CX isn't just about surveys. What other signals are out there? You heard Radi talk about this. Find these signals and integrate them, right? It is more than just surveys, 100%. Second, continue to understand your customers, but also listen to the non-purchaser. Have a deep understanding of your future or potential customers. Current customers are one thing, but the non-purchaser, future customers, it's a different story. There's new learnings that you can get from that. And then don't forget about your employees, right? It's one thing to have an annual survey where you hear from your employees. It's another thing to have an always-on approach where your employees have the ability to influence how you serve and take care of your customers. Understanding emerging customers will drive, readiness and allow for more optimization, working towards integrated CX, right? And then third, have a plan in place to, I love this tagline, get ahead and stay ahead. Understanding more signals than just surveys and understanding these emerging customers will help you have this plan in place, right? And then fourth, this is the biggest one, right? Just go to work, take action, identify the initiatives that will have an economic impact. All action taken should be tied back to a specific outcome. Make sure the dots are connected. If you go and do, the realization of results will be accelerated. This is integrated CX, signals that are understood and acted upon to drive increased performance. So with that, Radi, I'll turn it back to you and see if you have any specific words to maybe these 4 action steps.
No, I mean, David, you're always so elegant with the action steps. So I think the only thing I'll quickly add, everyone, is, there's a mantra that we follow here, and I'll go through it very quickly because I can see we have quite a bit of questions, but it's very easy to follow what the rest of the industry is doing. It's a lot harder, but a lot more fun and a lot more, growth. You tend to see more growth with this to create the next trends. Don't just follow it, create it. Challenge what you have today. We love surveys, everybody does, but taking some time to look at what else is out there, taking some time and maybe a step back to say, what are we trying to achieve? It just allows you to take things to a whole new level throughout your entire experience journey and really beyond as you get to that level of cultural commitment. So with that, just want to thank everyone. I know this was quite a bit of information. I know we have a lot of questions and I know we're going to jump right into it. But Dorothy, let's pass it back to you and let's jump right into this.
Thank you for that informative presentation, Radi and David. We did receive some questions from the audience, and remember that you can still send us questions. If we don't get to them today, we'll pass them along to the speakers. First, indirect feedback sounds great, but how do I utilize it with my existing survey strategy?
Oh, that's a great question. I'll jump in first, Dorothy, and I'll pass it over to David. So, I would say it's always great to follow a crawl, walk, run approach. And what I mean by that is, let's start off with surveys. I'm sure you currently have surveys today. I'm sure you're collecting quite a bit of information. What are some gaps that you're not able to solve? Surveys, you can add in questions here and there, but looking at historic-based journeys is very difficult to do. So starting with what you have today, being able to see what some of the gaps and obstacles are, and being able to then strategize all those other signals, social and so on, is what we've seen as very successful for a lot of organizations. For the others, it's been the other way. Don't start with the surveys, start with the social first. But again, take it as a crawl, walk strategy based on what is available to you today. And there's kind of this thing that we like to do, which very simple. It's really whiteboarding. We tend to whiteboard with a lot of different brands. Just take a whiteboard, draw out the entire journey and say, what can I solve for and what am I not solving for? And how can we basically change that as well? David, anything else to add there?
No, I love that, Radi. And it's interesting because I'm thinking, and this is kind of a little different take, but just this idea of the innovation around the technology that helps bring all this to life has been accelerated these last couple of years. And, I know a lot of brands are going through tech stack consolidation efforts and exercises, and that's super healthy. But having the right technology in place that can kind of accelerate that crawl, walk, run approach really allows this to come to life. So this idea of integrated CX is based on the fact that the technology is there to be able to ingest these different data sets and allow you to really understand what's coming from these different data sets. So just this idea of the balance of technology and services, that combination together really brings this to life.
Excellent. Thank you. Another viewer noted, this is great, but I'm having a hard time getting executive sponsorship for this initiative. What do you suggest?
Okay, I'm going to jump in there, Radi, because I love this one, and partially because I've had these types of conversations with a lot of executives over the years. And it's been interesting to see kind of the maturation of executives buying into this idea of integrated CX. And frankly, right now, that it's not really a friction point like it used to be. I think executives truly do understand how important this is, but executive buy-in is so important. I talked a little bit about CX governance and the fact that you need that executive sponsorship, and some things that I've learned over the years how to connect those dots with the executives is, first of all, like making sure that the executive sponsorship understands that this isn't just flavor of the month, right? That the investment, the commitment to integrated CX isn't something that just happens and then stops and then goes away. Like it's the new way of doing business. Like better business decision making can take place because of integrated CX. And so, things like, creating key influencers and then really having, I mentioned the example from one of our clients of having the did you knows. But if you can start to socialize those nuggets that really do have an economic impact up the chain, specific to your executives, it's not going to be hard to get buy-in from that executive level. They're interested in performance and improving key metrics, and the fact that customer experience can have an impact on those key metrics, like you're going to have a seat at the table. So those are just a couple things specific to being able to connect that dot with that executive level. But 100%, it's so important to have that executive sponsorship in these types of initiatives.
Excellent. Thank you. And we have another viewer who wanted to expand a bit on a point that Radi had made and said, it's obvious that Gen Z will be shaping the retail market, or Gen Z. What do we need to know about them to design the best experiences for them?
Oh, that's a question that I absolutely would love to start on first. And Dorothy, it seems you're going through my identity crisis too, Gen Z versus Gen Z. So I have to tell you all, I have been very involved in understanding this emerging Gen Z/Z customer, employee, and so on. And their mindsets, somewhat similar in some cases, is actually quite different. So one piece, and we actually share this with a lot of brands we work with, one piece that's very important, they do not have, in a good way, the patience to take traditional long-form surveys. They want things done quickly. They like everything to be fast. They're sharing their experiences in so many different ways today. One could be a survey, but it's got to be a lot more gamified than all the other age groups and demographics and so on. The other thing is, they don't actually differentiate the different experiences. There's no digital experience or in-store experience. They see it as one. A lot of brands that we work with, the big challenge that they've been looking at now is, our customers or these Gen Z customers want to make a purchase, but they want to do it through their phone, and they want to come into the store, and they want to use augmented reality, and they just want to grab and go. Taking off all those obstacles are absolutely really key. So when you think about these emerging Gen Zs or Zs, the most important element here is understanding where they want things to go and building around them. You're not going to satisfy every demographic, but you could satisfy a lot in that as well. And the other piece, Dorothy, because again, I got excited, is the emerging employees. That's a really big one, everyone. Their mindsets are different. They grew up in a very different world. So again, really kind of digging into and utilizing Glassdoor and Indeed and so on, that's really powerful to build that integrated experience and continuously understand. And as you've heard David and I say today, create the next trend. That's what they're looking for with any brand that they work with. David, I'm sorry, I took most of the time on that one, but I'm sure you've got something to add as well there.
Oh, no, great answer. I just want to double click into kind of the behavior of Gen Z, the Gen Z population, specific to that idea of leveraging innovation around technology. So, you mentioned, long form surveys versus short form surveys, micro surveys, things like that. Like, I want to mention a little bit, like we're seeing a lot of success from that specific population leveraging some of the technology around like image upload and video. So being able to share about their experiences with the brand by taking a picture and submitting that picture back to the company, right? So just, making sure that you have the right ways to communicate with your customers in place, knowing that they really do love to adopt, some of this innovative technology that's out there. And then the second part just is, just change, be ready for change. Like even what we've learned about Gen Z in the past is maybe different this year versus last year, and next year is going to be different. So just making sure that, being dynamic and having that ability to try to stay ahead, I think is so important. And once again, that combination of technology and services really is kind of that magic.
Excellent, thank you. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I want to thank our session sponsor, InMoment, and our speakers, Radi and David, and thank all of you for attending. Be sure to tune in tomorrow when we kick off the final day of the Retail Strategy and Planning series with a session covering tactics for tackling omnichannel challenges, dynamic pricing, returns, and beyond, beginning at noon Eastern Time. You can also access any of the RSP sessions on demand by clicking the link at the bottom of the slide. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day.